Everything that we do, we create. What's up, guys? How's everybody doing? This is Darius, the Professor Wise, with my amazing, beautiful, wonderful cousin and co-host, Dr. Denise. Welcome to another episode of PTST, where we are provoking thought and seeking truth. Denise, how you doing today?
I'm doing well. I'm hanging in here. I got a little energy vibe. It's like this. It's kind of on even keels. I don't need my rocks.
All
You
right,
know.
good to hear. Good to
Yeah,
hear. Good
yeah.
to see you. You're looking well.
Thank you. Thank you. So are you. Thanks
Well,
for all
thank
the
you.
props, my brother.
Oh, of course, of course. So
Yeah.
I I am glad that we are here to share with everybody, guys. Just before we jump in, one of the things I want to just share with you is like the video, comment if you have comments, and make sure that you subscribe to the channel and hit the little bell for the notification so you know when we put up new episodes. So make sure you interact with us. We do respond to comments. I know Denise is very good at that. She does a lot better than me, but we're responding to your comments. We definitely want to hear what you think. And understand that we're trying to build foundations that we all can grow upon. So we want to make sure that you are getting the info that we are putting out on PTST. So
Yeah. We're looking for people who are ready to evolve. Well, you're going to evolve one way or another, either
yeah,
in a progressive form or a regressive form. It just depends upon your choice. Given
which
that
you have,
this is a free will universe, honey.
and you have a choice.
That's right. That's right.
And with that choice, let's talk about perspective today.
I'm
Let's
ready, Darius.
let's
You know
talk
why?
perspective.
You know why?
Why?
I came back. I just came back from a road trip, right?
Mm-hmm.
And I saw three really good fights. Not fisticuff. They almost got to the point of fisticuff. But I sat back and I listened.
Mm-hmm.
And do you know what the fights were about?
What?
They were about differences in perspective.
And you know what's so interesting? If you sit back, most fights are. Most
Yeah,
differences of agreement and all of that is a difference of perspective.
yeah, yeah. I think I may have mentioned in the very first episode that one of the main causes or sources of conflict comes from differences of perspective.
Hmm. It does. Now,
Yeah, and it's all over it, but it's more so now.
well, we feel empowered to believe that our perspective is the right perspective. And we see it all the time. If you are one that watches the news and all that, it, they're giving you their perspective. It's not always fact. It's perspective. And I looked that up because I knew we were going to talk about this today. So I looked up like to see what is the definition. If I Google perspective, what definition does it give me? So outside of the art perspective, because there's a perspective for it with art, but it came up with a particular attitude toward or way of regarding something, a point of view. So when we think about perspective, we think of a point of view. My perspective is my point of view. That's how most people will identify with perspective. And so I thought that was
Yeah, but most people, when they get in the ring about it, it's not perceived by them as a perspective. It's
nope.
perceived as what's right and what's wrong, and I'm right and you're wrong.
Yeah, belief. It's what I believe as opposed to what you believe. And then we get into that, just what you said, like the truth. I mean, what's right and what's wrong. My way is right, your way is wrong. So now we get into this argument. We're bickering, we're going back and forth. And and what's so ironic about it, a lot of times you have people that are engaging in these type of activities because they have a difference of perspective, and they both feel the same way really deep down about whatever it is that they're arguing about.
Well, sometimes if you dig deep enough, you find that there are similarities. But when you get into a low vibration and that arguing back and forth, you're not going to be able to think about things
Right.
objectively enough to see that there are some commonalities. All you will see is the differences, and then the debates, and then the blaming.
Yep. Because now we've been hijacked. Our amygdala has hijacked it. So there's no logic in it at all when we get to that
Yeah,
level.
yeah. And when our amygdala is hijacked, we don't think. But so I like your definition of perspective. I got the very same thing. It's a point of view. It's the lens in which you see the world through, and it determines how you view yourself.
Mm-hmm.
It determines how you view others and everything else around you.
Yeah.
All right. So it's kind of like a mind, it's a mindset.
Mm-hmm.
All right. But what I did was I looked at what comes before perspective,
Okay.
right? Which is perception.
Mm.
All right. Seeing, perceiving, receiving. And our perception is what controls our reality of
Mm-hmm.
our perspective. So
Mm.
perception comes first, and then perspective comes. All right? Because what perception is how we interpret things, how we understand things, how we understand a given situation, um, a person or an object.
Mm-hmm.
All right. But in other words, it's the meaning that we assign to any given situation. All
Right.
right. But guess how our perception is created?
So I'm curious. You got me curious.
Our perception is created through our belief systems. All right. Which come from our experiences, what we've been taught, our mental images, and repetition, like rat training.
Mm-hmm.
All
You
right.
know,
Does that sound like self concept to you?
very much so. But here I'll guys, y'all watching. I just want to say this real quick because it's always just uncanny for me, and it's just it fascinates me. Denise and I usually are very free with how what we're going to do and what we say on the show, and so we talk about what we want to talk about, and then we kind of just we have our own little notes about things, and we go into it. And I'm saying this because all of the things that you just said, Denise, were all the things that I was thinking. And that it's the experiences that we have. It's how we see things that are happening around us in our environment and in our personal life and how we see ourselves that create this perception that in turn creates our perspective on how we see other things in life. So now, based on those experiences, based on all of those things that we've gone through thus far in our life, when something else comes, we find ourselves in a new situation or a different experience is happening at the moment, we're seeing it through the lens of what has already happened. So we're going back into memory, trying to find that thing that is very similar to what is that we've already experienced, that's very similar to what we're experiencing right now. And usually what the brain does, our brain likes familiarity. It doesn't want to do all that work. It wants shortcuts, right? And so what our brain is doing is saying, okay, this happened, something like this, or very close to this happened before. And it could have been last week, it could have been last year, it could have been 10 years ago. But it says, oh, since we been through something like this before, let's just act and react the same way we did then. And so
Without
this,
thinking.
with right, because I was gonna say this limits the actual logic and thinking about how we want to proceed in this moment, in this current situation. So people find themselves repeating experiences, right? Like, why does this always happen to me? I continue to go through the same things over and over and over again. Because when something happens, we react the same way we always do. So how do you expect for it to be a different outcome when your actions are exactly the same as before, and those outcomes were not ones that you desired or were favorable? So our
Here's
perspective, yeah, our perspective, we gotta understand that our perspective is based on those experiences and things that we've gone through in the past
and things that we believe.
and what we believe, which creates those beliefs, right?
And yeah, and we've been taught a lot of falsities or
Mm,
falsehoods about who we be.
right. Well, that's core for what we talk about.
Yeah, so it's understanding though that each person thinks about things differently. All
Hmm.
right, each person has had different experiences.
Hmm.
All right, people have different thoughts. They have different levels of awareness.
Hmm.
All right, and feelings and behaviors because we're all unique beings.
And you could have grown up in the exact same house, and that is still true.
Right. Okay. And so one of the things that's really not taken into consideration, I'm going to go back to that mandala
Okay.
source, just kind of breathing the breath of vitality and life into each individual.
Hmm.
All right. That's energy.
Yes.
Right. And each one of us has received a different um, frequency and vibration
Hmm.
from the source.
Right.
All right. So now, source or God or the universe or whatever you want to call the source is infinite.
Hmm.
There's no way in the world that infinites can be breathed into one avatar or it would implode.
Mm. Right.
Think about that. So we have that's why I believe we have different vibrations
Hmm.
and different frequencies of energy so that we can represent the source in its infinite state.
Mm.
You see what I'm
Yeah.
saying? So
Yeah.
it's like everybody got a piece of the pie. All
Right.
right. That vibration, that frequency, then is above and beyond our life experience. Well, our life experiences are based upon our frequency and our vibration. We wouldn't have the life experiences that we have if we didn't have that frequency and that vibration from the source.
Right.
So that's what really makes us so different and so unique, right? So a friend of mine told me this joke one time. Can I tell a joke?
Yeah.
We were talking about the uniqueness of individuals, and he said to me, how do you catch a unique rabbit? Right? I had no idea. This is a friend of mine from Minden, Louisiana.
Uh,
And wait, no, not Minden, but it is Louisiana, right? He said, how do you catch a unique rabbit? And I said, how? He said, you sneak up on it. So sometimes people are so resistant to the thought or the idea that there are separate realities or different perspectives, different ways of looking at things,
mm-hmm.
that they resist it. So it's it's you can't just say to somebody, well, you got a different perspective than me and you're right and you're wrong, because that shuts them down.
Yeah. And it really shouldn't come to you're right or you're wrong. Because who's to determine who's right or who's wrong about how we see things, you know? And so I believe when we think about it, the differences and so many fights and arguments um, would not happen or could be easily resolved if we understood what perspective really is. And
And understand the perspective that someone is putting forth. But we don't
right,
listen because, oh, and this is a whole other piece that maybe we will have time to talk about, but it's about self awareness
hmm,
and what happens when an individual does not want to hear another person's perspective.
that's that fixed mindset.
Well, it's a fixed mindset, but you have to one of the ways to resolve this whole thing about perspectives is to hear the other person's perspective.
Hmm.
And it's like sometimes you have to take the position that there ain't no right, there ain't no wrong, it's just you and me and we disagree.
Right.
And so how
Yeah.
can we keep this party going?
Right. First, we got to say it's okay for us to disagree. But here's what's here's something that I thought of, that we're all born very different, very unique. But unfortunately, so many of us die a carbon copy of someone else, or what we've been told we should be. And if we understand that we're all different, every single one of us, we're all different. We have different experiences. We come from different backgrounds. We grew up differently. It doesn't matter. You know, our family dynamics may have been different. So if we just understand that from the beginning, we understand that our perspective, that we also understand that our perspective comes from all of those experiences, all of those things that we've gone through, the things that we've been taught, how we've been programmed. If we understand that, then when someone comes with a different viewpoint of a particular situation or thing or whatever it may be, if we understand that and we're open and we're conscious of it, then it's a lot easier for us to have some empathy from the other person's perspective, and also understand that, wow, your experiences in life have formed this perspective that you have, and because I went through this, my perspective is different. And that doesn't mean that it's right or wrong. It's just different. And different is okay. And you know, I said this before in one of the other episodes that, you know, we've kind of been conditioned to believe that different is dangerous. So if your perspective is different than mine, then I should have a sense of danger because I should feel threatened and I have to defend my stance and my beliefs and my perspective of things.
Okay, but why is it dangerous?
Because I think that we've been programmed to believe that, so that there is no unison. So we're not in harmony. We can't be in unison with each other. There is no collaboration, and we can't unite, because if we understand that we're all different, but that difference brings us together, that difference builds a stronger bond, then there will be some unity, and there, the powers that be don't want that. So we've always been shown in various different ways, a lot of times very subtle ways, that different is dangerous. I'm a sci-fi, I'm a sci-fi fan, right? I like sci-fi movies and all that kind of stuff. Whenever there's a let's say an alien or anything else, the very first thing that the human beings want to do is destroy it. Let's blow it
Okay,
up. Let's kill it. It's
because it's
different. It's
dangerous.
dangerous, even though we
All right,
don't know for sure.
but
That's just an example.
dangerous means to me that something is a threat.
Yes.
All right, that it's going to annihilate me.
Yep.
It's going to destroy me. It's going to erase me.
Mm-hmm.
All right. So people then are so attached. This is the ego.
Yes.
All right. An unhealthy one. Are so attached to what they believe. All right. That to threaten their way of, to not agree with them or to challenge their belief system is a challenge to their self.
Yes. Yes.
Okay. So you're going to refute my belief system, right? Which then invalidates what I believe.
Yeah.
And that means to some people that, well, maybe I'm wrong.
Mm.
Maybe I don't exist. Maybe my perspective is invalid,
Yep.
which means I am invalid,
Mm-hmm.
right? And so it's almost like a threat not to have someone agree with your perspective, which is your perspective. It ain't nobody else's business.
Right.
I don't care what you believe,
Right.
whatever you want to believe.
Yep.
Okay.
Yep.
So, but let's go back because I want to give an example of how these belief systems get put into place so
Mm.
that one forms a perspective. All
Okay.
right. Think about an individual that believes that perfection equals success.
Mm.
All right. If you are not perfect or if you are less than perfect, it means that you are a failure. Right. So now
Mm-hmm.
all of this is coming from this belief system about what perfection is. Perfection is success. If you're imperfect, it means that you are a failure.
Right.
All right. So what this individual has done is boiled her perspective down to two types of individuals, all right, in the world: the perfect, imperfect,
Mm-hmm.
losers, winners, right?
Right.
Achievers, non achievers, all right? And has rendered her belief system to a set of dichotomies, either or, black
Mm-hmm.
or white, true or false,
No gray areas.
no gray areas at all.
Right.
All right. So now this is a product of the old world order that we talked about. That's why this is For me, this is key because you talk about making a shift. Last episode, you were talking about, are we ready for this shift?
Mm-hmm.
What are we going to do to prepare for it? We need to, what do we need to do? We need to do our work.
Yep.
We need to do our self work and take a look at how we view the world and where that belief system or those belief systems came from.
Yep.
Because we're moving into a time now where that's obsolete. It's bye Papa's way.
Yep. So
So
true.
where does that really come from? That dichotomous either or worldview that was embedded in the old world order.
Mm-hmm.
You
It comes.
know,
It, it's so subtle, how the programming is done, how it's set up, and it's done on so many different levels that if you're not paying attention, you don't realize how many ways we're being bombarded, let's say, with these ideas
mm-hmm.
and with these concepts. Like we're really being bombarded with this from childhood. They're training us and they're raising us up with this belief from very, very early on. And I agree 100% with you. We need to question our beliefs, and we need to really be able to sit down and do the work and say, why do I believe this? Why do I believe that this is the way? If you're not perfect, you're a failure. Why do I believe that? Where did that come from? Where did I first hear it? Um, where was it reinforced, or how was it being reinforced? Or just thinking about where those things come from. And we don't take the time to do it. We just say we believe what we believe, and then we leave it at that, and then we just fight for our beliefs, right? And
Okay.
if you speak against in opposition of what I believe, then there's an issue. There's a problem there. As opposed to really even understanding why we even believe the way we believe.
Okay. And we don't talk like that. We don't talk about ideas. We don't talk about philosophies. We talk
Mm-mm.
about other people and we talk about events.
Yep.
So,
Yeah.
where is our world of conversing about ideas, about
That's
philosophies, how things came into being? All right.
right.
Now, just like with this whole world order shift
Mm-hmm.
that we talked about last episode, it's an energy shift
Mm-hmm.
based upon the stars and the light from the stars angle, right?
Mm-hmm.
It on um on us as individuals.
Right.
All right.
Right.
That's that's what it's based upon. I don't want to get into all of the science of it right now. Okay. But this energy is invisible. It's an invisible source. The old world order, the energy and the vibration and the frequency was invisible to us.
Mm-hmm.
All we saw was the manifestation of
Yes.
it, if indeed we did see that.
Right.
Okay. I mean, this invisible force was a defining, excuse me, it was a defining moral culture.
Mm-hmm.
All right. It was a belief system. It was a mood. It was an attitude
And a feeling.
and a feeling that then dictated our behavior. That old system is gone.
Right.
All right. But we still see it, and we'll talk about how that happens in a minute, right? But this whole idea of dichotomy, right, wrong,
Mm-hmm.
conclusion, has created so many problems that it's worn itself out and it's got to go away. All right.
Mm-hmm.
It's part of the past.
Right.
So, in doing our work and getting ready for this new surge of energy, this new vibration level, um, we have options. There are alternatives. Okay, and
Mm-hmm.
I found this years ago. Remember the handout that I provided to you guys during one of our mind reset calls. It came
Probably.
from Linda. It came from Linda James Myers, and
Mm-hmm.
it was an assessment of an alternative worldview,
Right.
which was optimal,
Right.
but it came from an ancient system or ancient way of being, and it is a it is based upon an understanding of universal law.
Mm-hmm.
In We live in a diunital universe. All right.
You're going
This
deep on them.
Wait, I gotta do this. This diunital universe consists of opposites.
Mm-hmm.
All right. I mean,
Yep.
we argue this, we get in fistfights about this all the time, but we don't get it that there's another option.
Right.
All right. The old world order is dichotomous, right? Right,
Mm-hmm.
wrong, conclusion. Somebody's got to be right.
Right.
All right, conclusion. Somebody's got to be wrong, conclusion. This perspective is based upon opposites and the integration of those opposites. So it's diunital, meaning both and conclusion.
Mm.
All right.
Mm-hmm.
So basically, what it's saying is that there are polar opposites in
Right.
this universe. All right. And they're obvious to us: the sun, the moon, the
Right.
light, the dark,
Right.
right? The sky, I mean, the heaven, the earth.
Mm-hmm.
But they're all connected. All right. And so we swing back and forth on this pendulum, back and forth, back and forth, right, wrong, left, right, right. And it never stops because each position in the old guard wants their way.
Yep.
All right. So when we are able to recognize that there are separate realities, then, excuse me, what we can do is integrate those opposites. All right. But the key is to know what each um, polar spectrum has in it, right? We want a balance in how we view things, right? And that's that's how the universe is structured.
Right. And in this old excuse me, in this old way of thinking, it's amazing that we've been pushed away from that way of thinking, that logic. In order to have balance, That means that you have to have something on both sides of the scale in order to have balance. And so when we think about the different perspectives, we can look at it in that same light. In order to have balance, we have to have people that are looking at things and on both sides of the scale in order to balance it out. But when we get down to it, as far as how we react, what we think, how we believe, how we've been programmed, we're saying everybody needs to be on this side of the scale. Everything's here. And
Yeah,
there's
that's why
no
we're so
balance.
messed up. We're
Right.
we're out of balance with the universe.
Exactly. We
This
want to
kind
push everybody to believe the same thing, but that is because it's a control mechanism.
of
It's
that's right. That's right. And a cult of control. We have
yes.
to be in that cult in order to fit in.
Yes. Because if you don't believe this, you get ostracized. And then we're going to say, this you're crazy. And we're going to call you out because we really, those that, kind of in this Western world, especially, they don't want balance. They don't want balance. If there's balance, then the layers of control and the layers of superiority break down if there's true balance. So they
But
don't want the balance. So we're trying to push anybody that's on the opposite side of the scale, let's say, they are, that's danger. That's that dangerous. The different is dangerous. So if they're on that side, we have to do something to nullify them or get them to convert over and join our side where we're going to still have no balance whatsoever.
well, I think that that whole idea of balance is part of, of the or lack of balance is part of the conditioning
Yes.
because we are taught that life is full of flux and havoc and up and down and
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
that's the mindset of the previous world order, Papa's way, the
Yeah.
patriarch.
Yeah. And that's one of those things where I said it's very subtle ways that they do that and teach us
Yeah,
that throughout our life. Subtle ways.
exactly. Well, and we don't talk about it.
No.
We don't talk about it. I think that Cannell talked about it in his book. This is a book that was written in 1929, 1921, 1914 that we read when we
Yeah.
did that mastermind
Yep.
class.
Mm-hmm.
It was called the Master Key.
Yes.
All right. But there were ideas and thoughts and beliefs that were in that book that came from ancient times
Mm-hmm.
that were hijacked. They were taken away from the ancient people
Right.
and hidden away. Because I remember the first time I ever read it, people saying, why didn't we know this? Where's this book been
That was
all the
my thought.
time?
I was like, this book was written when?
In 1914 or whenever
Yeah.
the hell he wrote it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And
And it,
then the book, this just shows how these things that we're talking about are intentionally withheld from everyone.
the
That
masses.
book was yeah, from the masses. That book was banned. And books like those during those times were banned, which brings me to the time that we're in now. And now we're in a state where we're back to, or we're really focusing on banning books, banning the information, destroying the information so that people don't know what is fact and they have to go with what they force feed us to be truth. Because we talked about that difference between fact and truth. And see, they're force feeding us truth what they say is truth and eliminating facts.
Big
So we,
lies.
the big lies, big lies. Yeah. So now our perspective. So here we go. Right. So it comes back around full circle. So now we're being force fed this truth, and it's actually having a major impact on our perspective and how we see things. So here's my question: how do you see what you see? How
Well,
how do you see what you see? How do you see it? What you're
you
seeing?
believe nothing. You believe nothing, and you question everything.
There you go. There you go. Y'all got that? Y'all might want to write that down. That right there
believe you
is
believe
gold.
nothing, and you. It's like, what makes sense? I'm looking for something that I question everything, believe nothing, question everything. I'm going to give you an example of what we're talking about. Charles Darwin's theory of evolution.
Mm,
His book was written in 1859. All right. On the origin, this is the name of the book that we used, on the origin of species by means of natural selection, survival of the fittest.
mm-hmm,
Well, the professor was lecturing, right? And he was talking about this process of human evolution, how man came to be, right?
mm-hmm.
And I'm listening. And as he went on, I kind of got tickled and I started laughing to myself, right? I had to leave class because I got so tickled, right? In my mind, right? In my little special mind, what I was seeing was fish floating around in the ocean, swimming around in the ocean, deciding that they couldn't go fast enough with these fins. So they decided that they were going to grow four legs.
They just had this
walk,
epiphany.
walk up out of the water onto the land, stand up on two of those feet, then become, no, before they become erect, some decide to go up in the tree,
Mm-hmm.
right, and swing around on the trees. Others decided to stay on land. This is on my mind. This is the mental picture. This is the tape that's playing in my head. And I got so tickled because I said, this man is crazy. This book, who the hell is Charles Darwin, right? I mean, I was just laughing because I could just picture this fish growing 4 feet and then walking up out of the water onto the land. And then I decided I was going to go and find this book.
Mm-hmm.
All right. I found a later edition, not the 1859 version. And in the copyright section, where they had the copyright and the publisher and whatnot,
Right.
they had the name of the book, then they had the words or, listen to this, the preservation of favored races in the struggle for life was the old name of the book.
Mm.
All right.
They had to change that.
Wait. Yeah, they did. Because what, in looking at the book, it's like, this book is about eugenics.
Mm-hmm.
And what it really meant was to promote the ideal of perfecting the human race by getting rid of its undesirables while multiplying its desirables.
And so my question, the thing that stands out to me when you read that just now at the end, who decides who's desirable and who's not? Who's making that decision? So they put stuff out there like that. Like who's the desirable ones and what's not desirable. Who is making that call? Who's making that decision? Someone who is like the fish that you saw that just decided one day, I'm gonna grow feet. Somebody just decided that I am the one that's gonna make that decision, right? It has nothing to do with universal law. It has nothing to do with um, our makeup, this avatar that we're in. It has nothing to do with any of that. It's just somebody's just, you know, who's I guess assumed power and decided that this is I'm gonna decide who's desirable, who's not. That's always
Believe
the question that I hear.
nothing, question everything.
Everything.
All
Yes.
right. So, oh, this is a whole other can of worms, but it's about the fact that we are taught things and we don't question them. Had I not had that mental image or picture of fish growing feet and got so tickled about it that it led me to the library, it's like, this is horse crap. It didn't make sense to me,
Yes.
but it was a feeling inside that I had because it's like, this don't make no sense to me. This is ridiculous.
And if we question everything, we'll realize that a lot of the things that we have been told, a lot of the things that we have been taught don't make sense. Like a lot of it's not even logical. If you get away from just being um the robot and just accepting the programming that they're giving us. If we question and question why we believe what we believe and question why they're telling us these things and question why does this look this way, um, things will start to not make sense.
Right. Whenever you get into an either or situation,
Mm-hmm.
right? Something inside of you should say, uh-oh, uh-oh, this is a forced choice.
Right.
Like the true false questions, they're false choices.
Yeah.
I mean, forced choices.
Forced. Yeah.
Yeah, forced. You must pick one of these. It's an either or.
Right.
And that is the basis of logic or reasoning for the old guard. The new guard coming in is based more on universal truth, which is in the book that I read, Linda Meyer's book on the Afrocentric worldview, she called it intuology.
Mm.
All right. In other words, neuter, meaning the source, the creator, but neuter means, or nutter means nature.
Mm. Mm.
So nature has the truth,
Right.
but we don't look to nature because nature has become obsolete.
Because we have been told that man has dominance over everything else. So we don't give the proper respect to nature and the planet and the earth, because we have dominance. We are superior over the animals and everything else on the face of this earth. So it doesn't get the respect. So we don't respect it. And we're not understanding that our energy comes from it and we must be connected to it. So we don't do all those things because this is again part of part of the system that's been in place where we believe we have dominance over everything, which means that we don't have to respect it.
Well, you know what? And that's in the Bible too.
Mm-hmm.
You have dominance
Mm-hmm.
over everything. All right. But that in itself is one particular way of viewing
But were those the original words?
Well, listen, there's several, there's these things, Cluckhone does these things called value orientations.
Mm-hmm.
In other words, what you value. And there's one criteria that looks at um, man's understanding or value orientation of the earth. All
Mm-hmm.
right. And there's three ways that they set that this author sets it forth. Um, Dominance over the earth, subjugation to the earth,
Mm-hmm.
harmony with the earth.
Right.
All right, multiple choice. The true nature of nature is one of balance
And harmony.
and harmony.
Mm-hmm.
And I know that I'm talking from a whole different world order, or
Perspective.
well, actually, it's a world view
Uh-huh.
because so many different constructs to it. But we don't talk about that. We don't talk about, you walk up to somebody and say, my view on humankind is that they're mutable, unmutable, or both.
That's we're not having that conversation.
It's like somebody would look at you like you're crazy, right?
Yeah, exactly.
All right. So, but what you value, your belief in whether man can change or man cannot change, right, would determine perhaps, and I'm making this leap just as an example, could determine perhaps whether you vote on the death penalty or not.
Exactly.
Yes, you don't believe that man can change. You men are either good or bad.
That's it.
You don't believe that men can change. They're good or bad. And so, yeah, I'm voting on the death penalty. Somebody does something bad, they need to die. They can't change.
Nope. That's just who they are. They were born that way.
But it depends. It depends because maybe some people are born that way.
And that's true.
And some people are not. But you to put people in a category,
It's
pardon
again
me,
black and white.
stereotypes human beings because you have this whole world out there. You Socrates had to, Plato had to put things in some kind of order, right? So
To try
that's
to
where all,
make it make sense because they didn't
yeah,
understand
that's
it.
where all the categories come
Mm-hmm.
from. And then from the categories, there's types assigned.
Mm-hmm.
And there's value placed on those types.
Yep.
So what do you value? And those are all things that we need to rethink.
So here's
Yeah.
yeah, we have to rethink those things. So here's the thing, and that I wanted to share kind of as we kind of wrap up because we know we've been going for a while. Here's the thing I want to share as far as if you feel that you to be more open and to eliminate and create some balance and eliminate the unnecessary, arguing, fighting back and forth over perspective. We need to first, I would say, just like we got to reframe some of our experiences because some of our experiences, after they have happened, we said that they're good or they're bad. That's it. We've gone to that black and white. It's either it was a good experience or it was a bad experience. Excuse me. So we need to reframe some of those things, right? We need to reframe how we see things that have happened to us. And it may have been something that was not desirable, but what else did you get out of it? What was the good that could have come from that? What is the lesson that came from it? What did you learn? So we have to teach ourselves how to go back and reframe things that we've gone through. We need to go back and what you had mentioned, we talked about earlier, is really believe nothing and question everything. We have to question, why do we believe what we believe?
Yeah.
And I was I gone I was taught, or I kind of learned and understood like this 5 why question, 5 why process. And whatever it is that you believe, if you ask yourself why 5 times, it really gets to the core of why you really believe that. So, why do you believe the sky is blue? Because that's what I was told. But why do you believe that? And you ask yourself these why questions, and really be open to answering them, and it kind of gets to the core of it. But that's again part of the work that we have to do. Um, so, in order for us to get to the point where we're understanding of, we all have a different perspective, understanding we all have different experiences. And what that does is it allows us to have more empathy and be open to new ideas that can create um, a new perspective as a whole from that we have. And that's understanding that we all going to learn from somebody else. There's always something that we can learn from each other. And our experiences are going to allow us to either be open to that or not. And reframing some of those experiences will give us an ability to be more open to someone else's perspective. So that's
Oh,
my
all right. So you're the professor in charge here.
yeah.
But what we're basically talking about, though, is shadow work.
Yeah.
It's shadow work. It is finding those parts of you that you're not conscious of,
Mm-hmm.
that keep you on autopilot. It that is part of the work.
Mm-hmm.
If we all did that aspect of shadow work, there would be less conflict
Right.
in the world. I found this little thing on Instagram, right? 9 signs you've done shadow work.
Mm.
You can laugh at yourself.
Mm-hmm.
You're not easily offended or triggered.
Mm.
You can see and appreciate multiple perspectives, multiple, not just two.
Yep.
You are aware of your negative feelings without being ashamed of them. You're assertive without being rude.
Mm-hmm.
You're assertive without being passive aggressive. You confront adversity and setbacks with courage and poise. You recognize a bit of yourself in everyone. Shadow work. Shadow
That's
work.
that's what we all need to do.
This is my favorite book, Meeting the Shadow.
Mm.
But there's power. There's power in identifying your dark side, because that's part of you that's letting you know who you are. All right. If you don't know who you are, then you and that part of you is unconscious. It's just gonna come out and you're gonna just spew it all over the place without even realizing that you're
Yep.
doing.
And,
So
and
identify it, acknowledge it, and dissolve and dissipate it by moderating it,
yes.
mediating it, but at least know what it is that's happening with you. At least know what you're doing. No shame, no blame. It is what it is.
Yep. It is what it is. And It's the shadow because it's not in the light. It's hidden from the light. It is time for it to take it out of being in the shadows and bring it to the light
Right.
and acknowledge it for what it is. And 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 really start to see how the things that we've done, our behaviors and our actions, how they have actually been dictated by these things that have been in the shadows
Hmm.
for so long.
Yep.
And now we
Yep.
can say, oh, this is why I did this. This is why I respond this way. This is why I react this way. And because we're not consciously thinking about all these things and we are on autopilot, we have no idea why we do some of the things that we do. Most people have no idea. So the shadow work is, first of all, let's bring it out the shadows. Let's bring it into the light and acknowledge it and understand that it might be a little painful too to address some of these things. And we've been taught to hide it. We've been taught to hide.
Yeah, we got to present that persona
Right.
to the world, but we're only hurting ourselves
Exactly.
and those people. I mean, those people around us. Who would ever think that envy and anger and deceit are shadows? Who would ever think that we disown our bodies and therefore have health issues?
Mm.
We have problems, illness, problems with our sexuality. Who would ever think that there's a dark side of achievement, right? Work in progress. Oh, and this is a big one: the hidden sides of religion and spirituality.
That
Devils and scapegoats. I'm not going to go into any more, but we have shadow work. Doing your work really requires some unpacking because there's so many aspects to shadow work, and a lot of shadow work is based upon lies that we've been told.
Yep.
All right. So it's about finding those or discovering those lies which hold you hostage.
But accepting that they were lies. We have to be open to release those things and be open to what comes and not hold on. And this is the thing, we hold on to those beliefs. We hold on and we fight for our limitations so much that we are afraid to let them go and know that and find out that they were lies and find out
Well,
this is really not who I am, you
that's
know.
right.
And we got to
So,
be open to that. And that's the hard work. And that's what so many people don't want to do. We got to acknowledge this. We got to reframe some of the experiences that we had. We got to address head on some of these things that are holding us back from being who we were created and designed to be.
well, and when you say that we fight for our limitations, what I discovered, one of the big fights that I witnessed, I didn't get a chance to tell you all about the big fights, but one of the things that I witnessed in an individual was a low sense of self awareness.
Mm.
Okay.
Hmm.
Not being aware of who they are and not even being aware of what they were doing at the moment.
Hmm.
And I kind of remembered this like um, I use the acronyms DATE. D for defensiveness. All right. A person, if you confront how you feel about what's happening, they will become defensive and try to explain to you why they did what they did.
Right.
Okay. And it's
Okay.
usually I did this because you did this or so and so, okay. The other one is a sense of arrogance. if you try to share with them how you see things, then you become the dummy. They know everything.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, you're wrong. You're the one that's wrong. I know this is right. Okay. The T is trustworthy. It's very hard to trust a person who has a low sense of self-awareness, because they do then take whatever it is you're saying and turn it back against you and
Mm-hmm.
blame you, and it's your fault. You're poking at me. You're hurting me, right? And then the other is empathy, okay? Where the individual lacks empathy. They can't even imagine putting themselves in someone else's shoes. They don't have the capacity, the mental capacity, to know that there are different perspectives, or that person sitting across from them wears a different shoe size,
Right.
let alone trying to fit into those shoes. So I call that date. And we see that all the time,
Mm-hmm.
because
And it
people,
plays out in so many different ways.
yeah, yeah, yeah. But those are the five most significant ones.
Yeah.
That
4.
four, I had to count on my fingers. It's like, yeah, those are the four um, that I have seen in people that lack self awareness. I have to be on my guard as well.
Mm-hmm.
You know,
We all
if I
do.
yeah, if I didn't have to do this work, I couldn't be sitting here talking to you about it.
Yeah. It's easy to remain in that space because that's what we're comfortable with. Remember, the brain likes familiarity. And we've been conditioned all of our life to be in that space, and it's easy to fall back in that space. That's where the consciousness, um, we have to make sure that we're conscious of what's going on, because a lot of these things are very subtle, and we fall back into that space without even realizing that what has transpired and what has happened. So
And you
it's
find yourself walking in the world with people that are like that, okay?
yeah,
Because it's comfortable for you. You're used to that. It's something that's
exactly.
familiar to you. But when you feel like your vibration is low, you're vibrating right along with those people, it's time to go.
Yeah,
It's time to pay attention to how you feel inside. You got a little gold nugget that sits right here at the top of your solar plexus, and you want that gold nugget to just glow.
yeah,
And when it doesn't, then you don't feel good.
yes. It's a visceral effect. You feel it.
Yeah, I mean, you could teach this to little kids. When you're around something or somebody that doesn't feel good, leave.
It's time to go.
Yeah, because you don't want anything that shrinks your heart chakra. You want something that opens it up.
Yep.
All right, I'm
Let's
done.
find those things that open us up. Understand, guys, there are different perspectives, and we need to find the truth of who we are, in order to be open to hear someone else's perspective
Right, and you
and
won't
not fight
hear it
about
on.
it.
Yeah, you won't hear it when moods are low and there's conflict and people are fighting about who's right and who's wrong. Because then that's when things become irrational. The argument becomes illogical. It's
And it
like,
doesn't even make sense.
this doesn't make sense. What the hell am I talking about? Let me get out of here. You start arguing about things that weren't even the point.
Exactly. Well, I'm going to leave it like this, Denise. What you said earlier, believe nothing and question everything,
That's right. Even fish growing feet.
even fish growing feet. And why not? Anything you want to say before we close out? Guys, just understand.
I'm all sad out.
You said out. Watch this
Yeah, I'm sad.
again. There's a lot in this to unpack. So you may have to watch this one again. But guys, it's been great. We'll see you on the next episode. Be phenomenal.
That's right. You are phenomenal.
Yes, you are. We'll see you next time.
Yep. Next time, Ashe.